Everyone envied how my best friend and I made it to the alpha twins of the Creek pack. But the pack didn't know that Victoria, their widowed stepmother, was the one the alpha twins truly loved. My best friend Kathy and I planned to run away, but the night before our escape, she poisoned herself with wolfsbane. I called her mate Damon, but he sneered, "Luna, my brother says, your and Kathy's little tricks are getting really old. Are you going to jump off Silver Cliff tomorrow?" 3 years after my best friend Kathy and I made it to alpha twins of the Creek pack, their stepmother Victoria, the one that the powerful twins truly loved, came back. Kathy and I planned to run away, but the night before our escape, she poisoned herself with wolfsbane. I called her mate Damon, but he didn't believe Kathy was really dead. Tears stung my eyes as I spoke again, my voice hoarse with emotion. "Damon, I'm not joking. Kathy, she's really dead. Please, you have to believe me." A contemptuous snort came through the phone. "Is that so? She's really dead. Should I arrange her funeral then, and cry my eyes out?" His sarcasm cut deep, but I persisted. "Damon, please. This isn't a game. She's gone. Luna Daphne, I call you that, but you don't actually think you're my brother's Luna, do you? Tell Kathy, stop playing these little tricks." Despite it being summer, I felt cold all over. My hand shook as I gripped the phone tighter. Damon didn't believe Kathy was dead. I should have known. In his eyes, Kathy was just a tool to appease the pack. But in the end, I had hoped he might have a change of heart. Yet, Kathy was disappointed one last time. Suddenly, a woman's voice came from the other end of the line. It was Victoria, Garrett and Damon's stepmother. Her voice was sultry and demanding. "Damon, why are you on the phone so long? Hang up, my back hurts. Come give me a massage." Then came Damon's gentle, doting voice, all right, I'm coming." The sky was pitch black, pressing down on me until I could barely breathe. I held Kathy's blood-covered body, my eyes vacant. I couldn't understand or make sense of it. Just yesterday, Kathy had been determined to escape the Creek pack with me. How could she have taken wolfsbane tonight? She was always so timid and afraid of pain, yet she endured the excruciating agony of wolfsbane. Numbly, I followed the pack guards to the sacred grounds where we perform our rituals for the deceased. In less than a day, the once vibrant Kathy had been reduced to ashes in a small, square box in my hands. As the sky turned a pale, fish-belly white, I walked out of the sacred grounds, clutching Kathy's remains. It wasn't until a passerby called out to me that I snapped back to reality. "Miss, your phone is ringing." I blinked, stiffly pulling out my phone. My eyes were misty, and I couldn't make out the name on the screen. When I answered, a deep voice came through, "You didn't come home last night." I gave a faint in response, my throat tight. Garrett's voice grew colder, each word like a shard of ice. "What's wrong with your voice? Were you out causing trouble with Kathy again? Daphne, I remember warning you to stay away from her." The phone wasn't heavy, but at that moment, it felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds. I took a deep breath, steeling myself for his reaction. "Kathy is dead, Garrett. You don't have to look down on her anymore." There was a pause on the other end, then a cold voice came through, "So you've started playing along with her act too? Daphne, if she's dead today, are you going to die tomorrow? Or do you think this fake death game is fun? Too bad we don't have time to play along with you too." The call ended abruptly, leaving me in stunned silence. I let out a sigh of relief. If he didn't believe it, so be it. Maybe Kathy's decision to end her life with wolfsbane was because she had completely lost hope in the Creek pack, in Damon. I wiped the tears from my face and carried Kathy's remains to the seaside. The salty air whipped around me, carrying memories of happier times. She had no family, no place to return to. When we were planning our escape, she once said that besides mountains and rivers, the place she wanted to visit most was the sea. So, with trembling hands, I scattered part of her ashes into the ocean. As soon as I did, a gust of wind swept by, carrying her ashes deeper into the sea. My eyes suddenly grew warm. "Kathy, is that you?" The wind seemed to understand, rushing towards me, caressing my tear-stained cheeks. I smiled, tears welling up in my eyes. "Go on, then. When this is all over, I'll take what's left of you to finish the journey we couldn't complete." The wind died down, just as Kathy was no longer by my side. I stood there for a long moment, watching the waves crash against the shore, feeling more alone than ever. When I returned to the Creek Pack house, it was already noon. The sun was high in the sky, mocking the darkness in my heart. Surprisingly, both brothers were home. As soon as I entered, two pairs of eyes fixed on me. Garrett's gaze was cold and questioning, while Damon's held a hint of amusement. The next second, Damon let out a mocking laugh. "Sister-in-law, you're back. Where's Kathy?" "Still in some alpha's bed, unable to get up." I clenched my fists, trying to control my heaving chest. "She's not coming back," I said coldly. Damon smiled, but his eyes were ice. "Oh? Has she found another alpha and doesn't need me anymore?" Even now, after everything, Kathy was still nothing but a disgrace in Damon's eyes. I laughed bitterly, the sound scratching my throat. 3 years of devotion, of tears shed in silence, of hopes repeatedly crushed, all worthless. Kathy's love had meant absolutely nothing to him. "Damon, if you despise her so much, why don't you just break the mate bond? It'd be better for both of you." My voice hardened. "Or is having someone to torment too enjoyable to give up?" Damon chuckled. "Sounds like she really has found another alpha." His eyes glowed an eerie green, his wolf close to the surface. One wrong move and he'd tear me apart. I turned away, pushing past him to hurry upstairs. I hadn't come back to argue with these monsters. I just wanted to find out why Kathy had taken the wolfsbane. The Kathy I knew would never commit suicide. She had always been so afraid of pain, so careful with her life. Even the smallest paper cut would make her wince and complain for hours. But before I could reach the second floor, a strong hand grabbed my arm and pinned me against the wall. Damon's hot breath hit my face as he leaned in, intimidating and overwhelming. "Daphne, tell me. Who the fuck is Kathy with? Tell me," he growled, his face inches from mine, teeth elongating as his wolf pushed forward. For once, Damon's ever-present smile was gone, replaced by pure, unfiltered fury. I felt a twisted sense of satisfaction blooming in my chest. How much crazier would he be when he finally realized Kathy was truly dead? Would he feel even a fraction of the pain he had caused her? "Why are you smiling?" His eyes widened in disbelief. "Daphne, don't think being the Luna protects you. Ask my brother if he cares about you at all." He sneered, his claws pricking my skin through my shirt. "So, be a good girl and tell me. Where is Kathy?" I laughed, my eyes wet. "She really is dead, you know. Last night. Wolfsbane. She died in agony, covered in blood. If you don't believe me, go check. You're capable of that, aren't you, Damon? Or are you too busy with your stepmother to care that your mate is dead?" The hand gripping my collar tightened, but I stared back unflinchingly. His rage and my calm were like two sides of an unbridgeable chasm. Suddenly, a large hand covered Damon's. "Enough, Damon. If you really want to know where she is, go find out yourself. Don't take out your anger here," my mate Garrett said. My collar was released as Damon stepped back. His eyes were dark, but he nodded, his smile returning like a mask. "Fine, I'll go check. But Luna, he drawled the title mockingly, if I find out you and Kathy are playing me, I won't touch you, but she'll pay. She'll wish she had taken Wolfsbane for real. I watched silently as Damon stormed out, disappearing through the main door. Seen enough. Garrett's voice was cold in my ear, sending a shiver down my spine. I pressed my lips together, trying to step past him towards Kathy's room. But before I could take 2 steps, he grabbed me, dragging me in the opposite direction. Let go, Garrett. Let me go. I need to. I struggled against his iron grip, but it was futile. You didn't come home last night. Today you return looking like death, claiming Kathy's dead. Daphne, I think you've lost your mind. As soon as we entered our bedroom, he threw me onto the bed with such force that the air was knocked from my lungs. His tall figure loomed over me, blocking the light, casting me in his shadow. His hand shot out, gripping my chin painfully, forcing me to look up at him. Daphne, am I being too lenient? Didn't I warn you to stay away from Kathy? His fingers dug into my jawline. Did I not make myself clear enough? It was no secret that Garrett disliked Kathy. She had been the only daughter of the River Pack's alpha, but 3 years ago, rogue wolves attacked their territory without warning. Her parents died in battle, fighting to the last breath to protect their pack. Kathy had dreamed of becoming a healer, spending years studying herbs and remedies. But after the pack's tragedy, she had to abandon that dream. With no alpha to lead them, she sought alliances with other packs to save what remained of River Pack. But Garrett thought a she-wolf who wasn't even an alpha had no right to lead a pack. He assumed she must be sleeping with other alphas to gain their favor, and he looked down on her. Even after Kathy made it to Damon, Garrett's opinion hadn't changed. In his words, she just went from serving many to serving one. But for Kathy, this marriage was like a moth flying into a flame. The free-spirited wolf she loved turned out to be a devil in disguise. I stared at Garrett for a long time. His face hadn't changed, but I could no longer see any trace of the man I once thought I knew and loved. Garrett, let's break our mate bond. The words left my mouth with surprising ease. I'd known Garrett for 5 years, mated for 3. I once thought we'd spend our lives together, grow old, side by side. But since Victoria, their widowed stepmother, returned 6 months ago, that dream had slowly crumbled, piece by painful piece. Victoria was only 8 years older than Garrett. She was the second Luna that Garrett's father, the previous alpha, had married to help raise his sons. But Garrett was already 16 then, and Victoria got along well with both brothers. Years later, Garrett's father died in battle. Garrett became alpha, and Victoria moved out of the pack house. Before meeting Victoria, I thought the brothers' love for their stepmother was based on childhood bonds and respect. But reality had slapped both Kathy and me hard in the face. It turned out that Kathy and I were just Garrett and Damon's second choices, mere covers to hide their twisted love for Victoria. I just wanted to leave him, to have no more connection with him. Garrett froze, his stern face showing a hint of suspicion. What did you say? His voice was dangerously quiet. I said, let's break our mate bond. Let's stop this entanglement. I met his gaze unflinchingly. I'm tired, Garrett. So tired of pretending. Perhaps I had stored up enough disappointment, because when I said the words, break our mate bond, I felt surprisingly calm. Silence surrounded us as I quietly waited for Garrett's answer. He had no reason to refuse. Victoria was back, and after breaking the mate bond with me, he could pursue her without hesitation or guilt. The woman he truly wanted had returned, making me nothing but an inconvenient obstacle. You can't be serious, he finally said, his voice low and controlled. A mate bond isn't something you break on a whim, Daphne. This isn't a whim, I replied steadily. This is 3 years of neglect coming to its inevitable conclusion. He and his brother Damon had both become powerful alphas of the pack. They were no longer the lost little wolves they'd been when their father suddenly passed away, those vulnerable boys who needed the support and approval of the pack. Now, they ruled with iron fists, untouchable and unquestionable. They didn't need to worry about explaining things to Kathy's and my family's, nor about the pack's pressure. They could do whatever they wanted without consequences. Just then, a ringtone broke the silence, a cheerful, lilting melody that I'd grown to hate. Garrett's attention immediately diverted from our conversation. It was Victoria's special ringtone, the one he'd set just for her. He answered it without hesitation. The woman's voice on the other end reached my ears clearly, her tone deliberately pitched to sound fragile and helpless. "Garrett, I think I might have a cold," Victoria whined. "I feel terrible. Could you take me to the healing den?" I tried calling Damon, but he didn't answer. "I don't know what to do." Victoria's voice was full of pitiful whining, each word calculated to tug at Garrett's protective instincts. And it worked. It always worked. I saw the concern bloom in Garrett's eyes, his entire demeanor shifting from cold indifference to urgent worry. My seemingly indifferent heart couldn't help but ache at the transformation. For her, he would move mountains. For me, he wouldn't even cross the room. I remembered a few months ago when I was critically injured in a battle against rogue wolves. My side had been torn open, blood soaking through my clothes as I begged him to take me to the hospital. He had used post-battle affairs as an excuse and let an assistant arrange my medical care. "The pack needs me," he'd said coldly, not even looking at my wounds. But the next moment, after receiving Victoria's call about feeling anxious after hearing about a rogue wolf attack miles away, he abandoned those same, complex post-battle affairs, and rushed to accompany her, holding her hand the entire time. Even now, when I had brought up breaking our mate bond, the most sacred connection between wolves, he still prioritized Victoria's sniffles over the dissolution of our marriage. "I'll be right there," he assured her, his voice gentle in a way it never was with me. "Have you taken any medicine? Are you staying warm?" "Victoria, I'm coming right away. Just hang on a little longer. I'll bring some of that herbal tea you like." Not a single glance back at me. Not a word about our conversation. Garrett's presence vanished from the room. I understood then, with perfect clarity, that as long as Victoria existed, I was nothing but air in his eyes, invisible, inconsequential, forgotten. 3 years of marriage, of trying to be the perfect Luna, of supporting him through his ascension to Alpha, and I finally realized that some hearts can never be warmed, no matter how hard you try. Some people are simply incapable of love, or perhaps, they are capable of loving only one person. I left our bedroom and walked down the hallway in a daze, my feet carrying me to the one place I might find answers, Kathy's room. I searched it for a long time, opening drawers, looking under the bed, checking between books on shelves. But I found nothing that explained why she would take wolfsbane. Except for that diary, filled with entries about Damon. The pages chronicled her journey from love, to disappointment, to despair. Each entry more heartbreaking than the last. "Today he called me by Victoria's name," one entry read. "He didn't even realize his mistake." Another, "He didn't come home again. Third night this week." On the last page, she had written only one sentence. "From this moment on, I will no longer love Damon." My chest heaved violently, a dense, stinging pain radiating from my heart. 3 years ago, on a night, Kathy suddenly sent me several messages. She said, "Daphne, guess who I'm going to mate with? It's Damon. Remember I told you about that super handsome wolf? Turns out we're destined mates. He says he wants to mark me. And the river pack can be saved now." Every word exuded Kathy's excitement. I knew she was excited not only because the river pack could be saved through this alliance, but more because she was going to mate with Damon, the man she had secretly loved for 3 years. She'd confessed her crush to me long before they ever officially met. That night, Kathy and I had chatted until 3 in the morning, planning her future, discussing how beautiful the mating ceremony would be, wondering what their pups might look like someday. Her excitement and happiness had, in these past 6 months, turned into disappointment and despair. Since Victoria returned to the pack, Damon and Garrett had grown increasingly cold towards us. Their excuses were always the same: endless meetings, never-ending pack affairs, important diplomatic missions that couldn't wait. I hugged the diary, and in my daze, unknowingly fell asleep. I had a strange dream. Kathy was in it. We were climbing a snowy mountain. She ran towards the peak ecstatically, like a free son. "Daphne, I've finally reached the top. I'm free." Sunlight shone down on her, bathing her entire being in a golden glow. Before I could feel happy for her, a shadow moved behind her. Victoria appeared, her face twisted with malice, reaching out with clawed hands to push Kathy from the peak. Kathy's body instantly disappeared from the snowy mountaintop. "Kathy!" I tried to grab her, but my hand didn't even touch the edge of her clothes. I jolted awake from the dream, my body drenched in sweat, a chill sweeping over me. Outside, the sky had turned completely dark. I put down the diary, intending to check Kathy's room again where she had taken the wolfsbane. Just as I opened the door, a tall figure stood before me. Damon's face was grim, his eyes filled with frost, none of his usual mocking humor present. He looked like he'd aged years in the hours since I'd last seen him. "Why did Kathy take wolfsbane?" Damon's voice was hoarse and deep, tinged with accusation. The moonlight streaming through the window cast half his face in shadow, making him look like the predator he truly was. "I went to the pack council," he said, his shoulders tense. "They confirmed it. The scent records show she really took wolfsbane." It seemed he had truly investigated and finally believed that Kathy was really dead. The realization hadn't softened him, it had made him more dangerous. "Daphne, tell me, why did Kathy take wolfsbane?" His voice cracked slightly on her name. "And what's with the plane ticket to another country? Was she trying to leave me?" I let out a cold laugh, the sound echoing in the silent room. "Not just that." Damon's brows furrowed deeply, the skin between them creasing into deep lines. His usually smiling face was now terrifyingly grim, stripped of all pretense. But I felt no fear. Instead, a sense of bitter satisfaction welled up inside me, dark and vengeful. Let him suffer, I thought. Let him taste even a fraction of what Kathy endured. "Damon, in a couple of days, you should receive a mate bond severance ritual request," I said, watching the color drain from his face. "That's the last thing Kathy left for you before she died." His eyes widened, pupils dilating with shock. "She wouldn't," he whispered, but there was no conviction in his voice. "It's a shame though," I continued, twisting the knife deeper. "Whether you agree to the severance or not doesn't matter anymore. Kathy has already left you completely. She's beyond your reach now, beyond your control." "Daphne." My name came out like it was being squeezed through Damon's clenched teeth, a violent snarl that would have terrified me once. In a flash, he crossed the room. He suddenly grabbed my throat, his claws extending as he pinned me against the wall. His dark eyes were as deep and threatening as an abyss, swirling with rage and something that almost looked like pain. "Tell me, why did she want to leave me? Why?" Each word was punctuated by the tightening of his grip, his claws pricking my skin. "After everything I did for her and her pathetic pack. Did you put her up to this?" His face was inches from mine, his breath hot against my cheek. "Did you poison her mind against me? Was this your idea?" I raised my claws to block his hand from my throat, drawing thin lines of blood along his wrist. My face remained expressionless as I met Damon's furious gaze, a smile still playing on my lips despite the pressure on my windpipe. "Damon, do you really not know why Kathy wanted to leave you?" I choked out, my voice raspy but steady. "Or are you just pretending not to?" "No. You're truly disgusting." His grip loosened just enough for me to breathe as confusion flickered across his face. "What are you talking about?" "I gave her everything: status, protection, a place in the strongest pack in the region." "Answer me," he snarled, his grip tightening again, claws drawing pinpricks of blood from my neck. I had no doubt he wanted to kill me. His wolf was pushing forward, his eyes glowing an eerie green in the dim light. I let out another cold laugh, even as spots danced before my eyes from lack of oxygen. Kathy's scent items, filled with her scent of misery and heartbreak over these 3 years, flashed through my mind, the crystallized memories of her suffering that she'd been too proud to share with me while alive. The scent of her tears as she cried alone in her room. The scent of blood where she'd clawed her own arms in despair. The scent of resignation when she finally gave up on her mate ever loving her. Just thinking about those scents, those memories, made me want to tear Damon apart limb by limb, consequences be damned. My eyes turned cold as steel as I spoke each word clearly, wanting them to cut into him like knives. "Damon, let me ask you something. Where were you when Kathy's parents died one after another? When she needed her mate most?" His grip faltered slightly, confusion crossing his face. "Where were you when Kathy was cornered by rogue wolves at the northern border? When she called for you through the mate bond, screaming your name as they tore into her flesh?" Damon's eyes widened, his breath catching. "What did you say to her when she was sick in the hospital with silver poisoning and wanted you by her side? When she begged the nurses to call you, and you told them she was just seeking attention?" His face paled with each question. "Do you remember any of this, Damon? Or were these moments too insignificant for the mighty Alpha to recall?" My voice dripped with venom. I had learned about all of this from Kathy's scent items. Over these 3 years, I knew Damon was cold towards Kathy, but I had no idea she had suffered so much, hiding her pain behind bright smiles and cheerful conversation. When her parents died, I asked Damon why he wasn't there to support her. Kathy had covered for him, claiming he was on a diplomatic mission to a European pack, too important to interrupt. But now I knew the truth from her preserved memories. Damon wasn't on a mission at all. He was vacationing with Victoria in a luxury resort, ignoring Kathy's desperate calls through their mate bond. When Kathy was attacked by rogue wolves at the pack's borders while picking healing herbs, Damon was in bed with another woman, dismissing the pain surging through their bond as just another of Kathy's tricks to get his attention. Yet Kathy never said a word to me, swallowing her pain and disappointment, protecting the mate who didn't deserve her loyalty. Damon's expression gradually froze as the truth of my words sank in. Hand at my throat slowly loosened its grip until it fell away completely. He mumbled, unable to form a complete sentence, his confident facade crumbling to reveal the coward beneath. Suddenly, a figure rushed over, shoving Damon away with enough force to make him stagger. Damon stumbled backward, nearly falling to the ground, his usual grace deserting him. "Damon, I told you not to lose your temper," Garrett growled, positioning himself between us. "Attacking a Luna is grounds for punishment, even for you." I glanced at the back of the figure standing in front of me, my heart unmoved by his apparent protection. Garrett wasn't defending me, he was maintaining order, protecting the pack's reputation. I meant nothing to him. It wasn't until I caught sight of a petite figure in my peripheral vision that I realized Garrett hadn't come back alone. Of course. His precious Victoria was never far from his side. Victoria gasped dramatically, quickly running to Damon's side, reaching out to help him up with delicate hands. Her dark hair fell forward, partially concealing her face, but not the worried expression she wore like a mask. "Damon, are you hurt?" she asked softly, her voice honeyed with false concern. But this time, something unexpected happened. Damon just brushed her hand away dismissively, as if her touch burned him. "Don't touch me," he growled, the words barely audible. Victoria bit her lip, looking hurt by the rejection. "Garrett, what's wrong with Damon?" she asked, her voice trembling in a way that made my skin crawl. "Why is he acting like this?" Garrett frowned slightly, his gaze flicking between Damon's hunched form and Victoria's tearful eyes. "Leave him be. He'll tell you when he's ready." Then he turned to me, his expression hardening. "I don't feel comfortable with Victoria living alone after what happened to Kathy. I'm planning to have her move in for a while. Daphne, her old room hasn't been used in a long time. Make sure it's cleaned up for her by tomorrow morning." I was too focused on Damon's defeated form on the ground to even spare Garrett a glance. His voice deepened, filled with alpha authority. "Daphne, I'm talking to you. This isn't a request." I felt the command press against my wolf, but something in me had broken free of his control. I gave him a brief, disinterested look that made his eyes widen in surprise. Instead of following his orders like the obedient Luna I'd once been, I walked to the corner where I'd hidden Kathy's box of scent items and placed them in front of Damon. "These are what Kathy left behind," I said, watching his face carefully. "Damon, take a look. See how much you hurt her over these 3 years. Experience every tear, every moment of despair you caused her." I had thought Damon didn't love Kathy, that she had been nothing but a political alliance to him. But his current state made me wonder if he did care for her after all, buried beneath layers of cruelty and indifference. Didn't love her, these scent items would just be another way to mock Kathy's weakness, her devotion to a man who didn't deserve it. But if he did have some feelings for her, these items would cause him exquisite pain, the same pain he had inflicted on her, concentrated into moments he couldn't deny or escape. Kathy's death was mysterious despite the wolfsbane, and I didn't want those who hurt her to be at peace. Let them suffer as she had suffered. Surprisingly, Damon's hands shook as he reached for the scent items, his fingers trembling visibly. He was afraid, yet desperate to hold on to the last piece of Kathy, the memories she had preserved that he had never bothered to make with her. He clutched the items to his chest like precious treasures, his shoulders beginning to shake with silent sobs. "Kathy," he whispered, the name a broken prayer on his lips. "What have I done?" No matter how Victoria called out to him, trying to recapture his attention, he remained unresponsive, lost in the memories of the mate he had driven to her death. I smirked at his breakdown, a cold satisfaction flowing through me, but couldn't shake the heaviness in my chest. Revenge felt hollow, it wouldn't bring Kathy back. I felt suffocated by the weight of grief and hate. I needed to get some fresh air, to escape this house of lies and broken promises. As I turned to leave, a large hand grabbed my arm with bruising force. "Daphne, what did you do to Damon?" Garrett demanded, his eyes narrowing dangerously as he pulled me around to face him. Garrett's eyes narrowed slightly, the air around him growing heavy with tension. His jaw clenched, the muscle twitching beneath his skin as he tightened his grip on my arm. "I asked you a question," he growled, his voice dropping to that dangerous alpha tone that made lesser wolves cower. "What did you do to Damon?" I stared back at him, unflinching. The fear I once felt in his presence had evaporated, leaving only emptiness and contempt. In truth, Garrett wasn't much better than Damon. Our mating was guided by the moon goddess, not based on mutual love or choice. The first 2 years were cordial enough, we respected each other, worked together for the pack, shared a bed without resentment. But these past 6 months, since Victoria's return, he'd done plenty to hurt me. The neglect, the public humiliation, the cold shoulder, all while he lavished attention on his stepmother. He'd even threatened my family standing in the pack when I'd questioned their relationship, suggesting my father might lose his beta position if I didn't behave appropriately. Looking back, it was probably to force me to leave on my own, to avoid the scandal of an alpha rejecting his mate. If I hadn't suddenly woken up and wanted to break our mate bond, and if I hadn't told Kathy about it over our secret lunch last week, she might not have suggested we leave together. We could go anywhere, she'd whispered excitedly, her eyes brighter than I'd seen in months. Just the two of us, free from them. Then, perhaps, she wouldn't have taken the wolfsbane. She wouldn't have died alone, in pain, her body twisted in agony. My heart clenched painfully at the thought. I even had the absurd thought that I was responsible for Kathy's death. If I hadn't planted that seed of escape. Answer me, Daphne. Garrett's voice cut through my thoughts, his fingers digging deeper into my arm. My face paled as I yanked my hand away from Garrett with unexpected strength, my wolf giving me the power to break his grip. You should ask him what he did to Kathy, I said coldly, nodding toward Damon's huddled form. Ask him where he was when she needed him most. Ask him why his mate preferred death to spending another day with him. Daphne, Garrett's tone softened slightly, as if he was trying a different approach. His hand reached for my face, a gesture that once would have made my heart race. Now it just made my skin crawl. Garrett. I cut off whatever he was about to say, stepping back from his touch. It certainly wouldn't be anything good, just more manipulation, more lies. I didn't want Kathy's name in his mouth anymore. It felt like an insult to her memory, a desecration of her suffering. Garrett, let's sever our mate bond, I said clearly, each word precise and final. Let's end this peacefully, keep it separate from pack politics. No drama, no scandal. Just two adults acknowledging what we both already know, this marriage is dead. Face hardened, his momentary gentleness vanishing. You're not thinking clearly, he said dismissively. This is grief talking. Kathy was your friend, and you're upset. This isn't about Kathy, I countered, though we both knew that was partly a lie. This is about us. About what we've become. Originally, I had planned to send the mate bond severance ritual request after Kathy and I had safely left, afraid of getting into an argument with Garrett that might threaten the pack's stability or put our escape in jeopardy. But now that he'd invited Victoria to move in, practically announcing to the whole pack that she was more important than his Luna, he should agree to break our bond without hesitation. There was no need to worry about arguments or appearances anymore. He'd destroyed those himself. You can have her, I added quietly. Isn't that what you want? A flash of something, guilt? Anger? Fear? Passed across his face before his expression shuttered closed. I didn't bother waiting for his response or looking at Garrett's expression any longer. I'd seen all I needed to see in his eyes over the years. There was nothing in this house I needed to take with me. No cherished possessions, no happy memories worth preserving. The past 3 years might as well have happened to someone else. So, without even packing a single item, I left the pack house alone, walking with my head held high past the gawking pack members who had no doubt heard the commotion. Before I could make it out the main gate, I heard rapid footsteps behind me. Damon suddenly caught up with me, his face tear-streaked, his usual cockiness completely absent. His voice was hoarse from crying. Luna, wait, he pleaded, reaching for my arm but stopping short of touching me. Where's Kathy's body? When I didn't answer, his voice broke completely. Or where's her grave? I need to see her, need to say goodbye. Please, Luna, I'm begging you. Tell me. To my shock, Damon fell to his knees in front of me, right there at the pack gates where anyone could see the mighty Alpha Beta in such a humiliating position. Tears streamed freely down his face, his shoulders shaking with each ragged breath. Please, he whispered. I know I don't deserve it, but please. I looked calmly at him, unmoved by his display. Was I supposed to feel pity for him now? After everything he'd put Kathy through? Don't call me Luna anymore, I said flatly. I'll never tell you where she is. I'll never tell you where I scattered her ashes. His head snapped up, eyes widening. Ashes. You already, I won't let you disturb Kathy's final piece, I cut him off. You had 3 years to care about her. It's too late now. Damon looked stunned, the color draining from his face as the finality of it all hit him. The mate he'd neglected wasn't just gone, she was beyond his reach forever. Suddenly, Garrett appeared, blocking my path to the gate. His face was a storm of emotions, his voice low and disbelieving. Kathy is really dead? You weren't exaggerating. I looked at him scornfully. She's dead. Shouldn't you be happy? After all, you hated her so much, looked down on her, spread rumors about her morals and intentions. But Garrett, I stepped closer, my voice dropping to a whisper, are you really any better than her? At least she loved honestly. What's your excuse? He flinched as if I'd slapped him, taking a half step back. The night was dark and heavy around us, the silence broken only by Damon's quiet sobs. The pack house behind me was unusually lively despite the late hour. Word of Kathy's death and my confrontation with the Alpha twins had spread quickly. Lights were on in every window, silhouettes moving back and forth as pack members gossiped and speculated. I could hear Damon's broken sobs and Garrett's low, angry voice as I finally walked through the gates. A grim satisfaction welled up inside me at leaving chaos in my wake. Let them deal with the consequences of their actions for once. I went directly to the pack council to file an official report about Kathy's death, making sure there would be a formal investigation. Then I returned to the place where Kathy had taken the wolfsbane, a small room in the east wing of the pack house, rarely used by anyone. The room looked just as it always had, simple bed, wooden dresser, small window overlooking the forest. Looking around made me dizzy with grief and unanswered questions. But this was where Kathy had ended her life. There must be some clue, some explanation beyond what I already knew. I sat there for hours, searching every corner, every floorboard, but found nothing new. No note, no clue, nothing to explain why tonight of all nights she had chosen to take the wolfsbane instead of escaping with me as planned. Instead, I received a call from Garrett, his name flashing on my phone screen like a warning. His voice was tired and hoarse when I answered. Where are you? I was surprised for a moment by the lack of anger in his tone. A light breeze blew through the open window, calming me somewhat. Why does it matter to you? I replied, my own voice steadier than I felt. There was a pause on the other end of the line, the silence heavy with unspoken words. Then, a soft sigh that seemed to carry the weight of exhaustion. I received a mate bond severance ritual request, he finally said. The council messenger just delivered it. Daphne, do you really want to break things off completely? After everything we've been through. Based on the timing, the severance request should have reached them by now. Kathy and I had submitted our paperwork together, planning for our new lives. I looked towards the horizon through the small window, watching the first hints of dawn painting the sky. By rights, I should have been with Kathy right now, maybe having afternoon tea at some distant cafe, or traveling somewhere new, experiencing freedom together. Instead, I was still at the pack house, still searching for answers to questions that might never be resolved. Garrett, I said softly, surprising myself with the lack of anger in my voice, just sign it. Let's both move on. You never loved me, and whatever I felt for you died months ago. I heard his breathing grow heavier on the other end of the line, the sound of his control slipping. Then came the sound of paper tearing, violent, angry rips that told me exactly what he'd done with the severance request. Garrett's voice was cold when he spoke again, tinged with anger and something that almost sounded like fear. Break our mate bond. Daphne, don't even think about it. Our union was guided by the moon goddess herself. We're destined mates, chosen by forces beyond our understanding. You think you can just decide to end it because of a rough patch? I closed my eyes, unsurprised by his reaction. Of course he wouldn't let go easily, not because he wanted me, but because he couldn't stand losing what he considered his property. Kathy's death was an accident, he continued, his tone softening into something falsely sympathetic. I know you were close, so it's natural to be upset. But Daphne, everything has its limits. Overreacting like this, it's not becoming of an alpha's mate. You're better than this. So even now, he thought I was just throwing a tantrum, that this was all an emotional overreaction that would pass with time. I laughed silently, shaking my head at his predictability. Garrett, have I ever made a scene in front of you? I asked. Quietly. When you left me bleeding on the battlefield to rush to Victoria's side, or when you missed my father's alpha service ceremony because of her, did I ever make a fuss? I could almost see him frowning, remembering those incidents he'd probably dismissed as unimportant. You know, I'm not the type to cause drama. We're both adults. We should think things through clearly, I continued, keeping my voice level and reasonable, the voice of someone who had already made up their mind. We have no feelings for each other. In fact, we've been living together in mutual dislike for months now. Separating is the best solution for both of us. You can be with Victoria openly, and I can rebuild my life. I don't want things to get ugly or public. So please, stop clinging to this dead relationship and sign the papers when they're resubmitted. Garrett and I fell into silence, neither willing to back down. The quiet stretched on until a familiar female voice came through from his end, sweet and demanding all at once. Garrett? Who are you talking to so early? Come back to bed. Victoria. In his bed. Any lingering doubt about their relationship vanished in an instant. Garrett cleared his throat, not even bothering to cover the phone as he replied to her. I'll be right there. Then to me, casually, as if we'd been discussing the weather, I have to go. Goodbye. The call ended, leaving me staring at my phone in disbelief at his audacity. I tugged at my lips with my teeth, feeling dizzy and hollow as I stood up from the bed where Kathy had spent her final moments. Suddenly, my phone buzzed with a series of text messages. One after another, messages from an unknown number flooded in, appearing in rapid succession. Daphne, breaking the mate bond is indeed a wise choice. Look at Garrett. He doesn't love you at all. So don't humiliate yourself anymore. Leave him. Next, a sent item arrived from an unknown source. The item was infused with Garrett and Victoria's scents, mingled with emotions of comfort and intimacy. I could smell Garrett's scent, warm and protective, enveloping Victoria. Her scent carried notes of contentment and a hint of smugness. The scents told a story of Garrett tenderly massaging Victoria's ankle after a minor injury. Every time she whimpered in pain, his scent spiked with concern. After applying healing herbs, Victoria's scent showed she burrowed into Garrett's embrace, her scent a mix of coyness and self-satisfaction. Garrett's scent responded by wrapping protectively around her, his low voice rumbling with comforting words. I examined the scent item dispassionately, then coolly replied to the sender, if you want him, convince him to sign the mate bond severance ritual papers. I won't interfere. Victoria and the Alpha twins had always been close, presenting a picture of motherly love and filial piety to the outside world. The pack often praised how well the young pack elder got along with her grown charges, holding them up as an example of harmonious Alpha family relations. But a few years ago, the old Alpha suddenly passed away, and Victoria abruptly left the pack. The news shocked the entire pack. Then Garrett temporarily took over as Alpha. At that time, I was being pressured into arranged matings. Suddenly one day, my potential mate became Garrett. We were drawn to each other's scents, and later he proposed we perform the mate bonding ritual. Garrett had always had a good reputation in the pack, and we'd met a few times before. So, I agreed to his proposal. Only now am I gradually understanding. Back then, he was just hurriedly taking over as Alpha after his father's sudden death, and the woman he loved had decisively left the country. He felt doubly defeated in his career and emotions, and only reluctantly agreed to arranged matings. As it happened, on one hand, my father was the pack's most powerful beta, and I, as his daughter, was also an excellent warrior. On the other hand, we were attracted to each other since, designated mates by the moon goddess. Whether in career or emotions, I was an excellent choice. But I was too young then, thinking it was a sudden arrival of love. I fell step by step, no longer just instinctively attracted to him, but hopelessly falling in love. Little did I know his choice of me was based on calculation, his heart unmoved and steadfast in its devotion to another. So in the end, it was me who hoped, and me who was hurt. While he remained untouched and indifferent. The news of Kathy taking wolfsbane had already spread through the pack. These past 2 days, people who hadn't contacted me in ages suddenly reached out one after another. When they mentioned Kathy, I just felt helpless. When she was alive, no one cared. Now that she's dead, everyone, close or not, has come out of the woodwork. I blocked one after another. These 2 days, Damon had been silent. Kathy's death was just a ripple in his life. I had hoped he might be devastated, but that was foolish of me. I went to the pack council again. There were no scent records in the room where Kathy had taken the wolfsbane. The pack house had very few places with scent recording devices, but the authorities had still captured some details. For instance, 2 people had entered the room that night. One was Kathy. The other was still unknown. I left the hall, the sun blazing hot outside. Yet I felt bone-chillingly cold. Kathy really hadn't committed suicide. But since getting married, her social circle had become simple, with me as her only friend. I really couldn't understand who would want to harm her. I returned home in a daze. When I caught sight of the car in front of the door from the corner of my eye, I snapped back to full awareness. My steps unconsciously quickened, and before I could enter the house, the voices from inside reached me. In the living room, Garrett sat in an armchair, discussing past fierce battles and boasting about tactics with my father. The very same person who had previously threatened my family was now chatting amicably with my dad. Seeing me, Garrett's expression softened. "Daphne, you're back." That gentle tone, I could hardly understand it anymore. Was this really Garrett? "What are you doing here?" My tone wasn't pleasant, and my father gave me a disapproving look. Then he stood up. "You two talk among yourselves. I'm going upstairs for a nap. Daphne, have a good chat with Garrett." That look was full of meaning. I didn't want to understand, nor did I want to. The situation between Garrett and me was no longer a secret to our families. I looked at Garrett, sighed, and said resignedly, "If you have something to say, let's talk outside. Next time, don't come to my house." Unusually, Garrett didn't get angry. Instead, he smiled and said, "All right, let's go to my car." When Garrett opened the passenger door, I hesitated, then bent down and got into the back seat. His brow furrowed slightly, and he followed me into the back. The car interior was already cramped, and when he sat down, I felt surrounded by his scent. "Speak. What's your purpose in coming to find me?" "To bring you home." Those 4 short words made me want to laugh. "Garrett, do we even have a home between us?" He paused, confusion in his eyes. I laughed bitterly. That place was never our home, and we'll never have a home again. "Garrett, Kathy is already dead. Don't tell me you want to drive me to death too." A flash of panic crossed his eyes. "I don't want to drive you to death, Daphne. I just think there's no need to sever our mate bond. We can still be like before." "Before? You mean when you and Victoria were all lovey-dovey, while I smoothed everything over and kept up appearances?" "That's not, but that is our before. My voice turned cold. The calm on Garrett's face dissolved into helplessness. Garrett sighed softly. Daphne, Victoria, and I are just stepmother and son. Why do you insist on doubting us? All our problems stem from your suspicion. I laughed bitterly. So, if I had a close friend of the opposite sex, close to my age, and I constantly abandoned you for them, maintaining an uncomfortably close relationship, neglecting you at home, and ignoring all the rumors as long as I said we were just friends, you'd accept that it's all just your suspicion? You'd graciously accept them, right? I continued, my voice dripping with sarcasm. Oh, and I could even bring them back to our den and have you prepare a bed for them. Garrett's expression froze, his brows furrowing. I let out a cold laugh. Garrett, it seems you can't accept it either. So why are you trying to convince me to be magnanimous? The air around us grew thick with tension. After a long moment, Garrett sighed. So, if I cut off all contact with Victoria, you'd reconsider breaking our mate bond. Is that it? I smiled slightly, and Garrett's face instantly relaxed. The next second, I chuckled softly. Of course not. I just want to break our mate bond because I hate you. I watched as Garrett's expression darkened, and I couldn't help but feel a twisted sense of satisfaction. It turns out that toying with someone you despise can be quite enjoyable. A familiar ringtone broke the silence. I inwardly smirked, expecting Garrett to leave. But the ringtone rang again, and Garrett remained unmoved. I was surprised. In the past, if it was Victoria's call, it wouldn't ring for more than 3 seconds before he answered. But now, Garrett sat as still as a statue. Oddly enough, I found this terrifying. When Garrett loved someone, he could put them on a pedestal. But once he withdrew his affection, he could watch them die without blinking an eye. I tried to move away, but my wolf seemed paralyzed under his gaze. I called out to Garrett, but he just stared at me intently. Daphne, let's stop this nonsense and stay together properly. Garrett was insane. What finally broke our standoff was a call from the Pack Council. They had identified a suspect in Kathy's death. On the way to the council, my heart was pounding, my palms sweating with nervousness. Garrett's low voice tried to soothe me, but I couldn't hear a word he said. When we arrived at the Pack Council, I was surprised to see Damon there too. He looked haggard, with dark circles under his eyes and pale lips. Seeing me, he murmured a soft, "Luna." We walked into the investigator's office together. The security footage from that night was fragmentary, but the figure became clearer and clearer. It was Victoria. I couldn't be mistaken, and neither could Garrett or Damon. After Kathy took the wolfsbane, Victoria left through the pack house's back door. There was no panic on her face, only a smile. I steadied myself against the table, my legs weak. Since Victoria's return, we had never crossed paths. The only time we met was at the pack house that day. We had no grudges, no enmity. My eyes burned, and my nose stung, but I stubbornly refused to let the tears fall. I looked at Damon, but I couldn't make out his expression. My voice hoarse, I said each word clearly, "Victoria is a murderer." Damon looked at me, his face a mask of defeat. Garrett's expression was complex. I shook my head in disbelief. "Don't tell me you're going to cover for her." How could they? She had killed someone. And this was in the Pack Council. My body trembled uncontrollably, my teeth chattering. Suddenly, a hand landed on my shoulder. Garrett looked at me, his dark eyes filled with calm. "Don't worry. The Pack Council will handle this. We won't interfere." Damon suddenly strode out, and the Pack Council immediately issued an arrest warrant. But strangely, Victoria seemed to have vanished into thin air. When they found her 2 days later, she was covered in blood, but none of her wounds were fatal. It was as if whoever had taken her wanted her to suffer but not die. When she saw Garrett, her previously terrified eyes lit up with excitement. Garrett, save me, save me. I don't want to die. You and Damon promised me. You said you'd protect me for life. But why did you marry others? Why did you break your promise? You lied to me. I hate you both. She reached out with her blood-covered hands, but couldn't even touch the tip of Garrett's shoes. She seemed to have lost her mind, laughing one moment and cursing the next. She kept muttering, should die. Kathy should die. Daphne should die too. Suddenly, she pointed at me, grinning maliciously. Daphne, actually, I was surprised that night too. My letter was meant for you, but Kathy showed up instead. So, I guess Kathy took the fall for you. A chill ran up my spine. The night Kathy died, I had gone home. She was the only one in the pack house. My voice trembled. What letter? Victoria smiled enigmatically. You'll never know now. I couldn't hear or see anything around me. All I wanted was to tear Victoria apart, to kill her and avenge Kathy. But someone held me back. I could only watch helplessly as the pack guards took Victoria away. Why? It's my fault Kathy died. Someone held me in their arms as everything went black. I had a dream. We were back on that snowy mountain peak, but this time, Kathy didn't jump. She was still there. She smiled and waved at me, but I couldn't reach her. Kathy, why can't I touch you? Because this is just a dream, Daphne. Is it a dream? But why does everything feel so real? Why do I feel this cold? And Kathy, her voice is so clear. Daphne, it's over now. I've seen everything you've done. Don't look back, you need to move forward. Remember what we talked about, seeing the mountains and seas. You promised to take me there. The figure on the snowy mountain slowly faded away. My eyelashes fluttered, and all I could see was white. For a moment, I couldn't tell if I was still dreaming or back in reality. Until a deep voice sounded near my ear, bringing me back to consciousness. Daphne, you're finally awake. Chapter 10. I see Garrett frantically calling for the pack healer, white-coated figures rushing around me. How long was I out? I ask weakly. 3 days, Garrett replies, his voice hoarse with exhaustion. He grips my hand tightly, relief evident in his eyes. The healer said you collapsed from shock. Daphne, Victoria's been arrested. It's a death sentence. What was in that letter? I press, my throat dry but determined. Garrett's eyes darken. Evidence of your plans to leave the pack. Victoria meant to blackmail you, but Kathy intercepted it. That's why, I turn away from him, pulling my hand free. It's over now. Time for me to leave too. I'd kept some of Kathy's ashes in a small vial. I'll take her to see the mountains and seas we dreamed of. And that snowy peak from my vision. I hand Garrett the mate bond severance papers again. This time, face to face. His eyes are unreadable as he speaks. Daphne, we don't have to do this. If you want to travel, I won't stop you. I'll wait for you to return. But his words don't stir anything in me anymore. What I once yearned for now feels hollow. Just sign it, Garrett. It's better for both of us. He hesitates, then quietly admits, I never hated you, Daphne. I just couldn't understand my feelings for you. I shake my head. I don't blame him anymore. I just want peace in my life, a life without Garrett in it. With a pained smile, he signs the papers. His usually strong signature looks weak and uncertain. Leaving the pack council, I head straight for the airport. Before boarding, I touch the small vial hanging from my necklace. Suddenly, I hear a familiar voice. Luna. Damon rushes up, panting. Luna, where did you bury Kathy? I stare at him coldly. I'll never tell you. Never. But Damon is relentless, following me onto the plane like a lost pup. Seeing his gaunt frame, I reluctantly contact Garrett to take him away. Garrett's voice is unchanged, still calm. Daphne, he's lost his mind. I can't control him. Then be prepared to bury him, I reply harshly. I will, comes his quiet response. Damon's gone mad, and so has Garrett, it seems. I shift into my wolf form, running and climbing, searching for that snowy peak from my vision. Each time altitude sickness hits, Damon appears, only to be chased away by my cold stare. Finally, I find the mountain. But Kathy isn't here. I place the vial on the summit, Kathy's ashes safe inside the small crystal. Damon lunges forward. Is this Kathy's? He asks, cradling the vial like a precious treasure. The icy wind stings my face as I turn away. Damon, Kathy will never forgive you. Never. He laughs bitterly. I know. She must hate me. Kathy was a free spirit. I caged her with my greed and arrogance. I thought it was my right to claim her, that she only wanted me for status. Now I see, she gave me a chance, and I wasted it. His words hit me like a physical blow. If spirits linger, surely Kathy hears him now. But it's all too late. Cruelly, I twist the knife. Damon, Victoria went mad because of you and Garrett. Don't you see? You killed Kathy. The color drains from his face. I turn and descend the mountain. Not far down, I spot a tall figure. Garrett. How long has he been following me? Daphne, where's Damon? He asks. I wordlessly point to the summit. But Damon is gone. We race back up. Only footprints remain. The vial and Damon have vanished. After 2 days of searching, the rescue team finds Damon at the base of a cliff. His lips are blue, he took wolfsbane too. His body is stiff, but his hand still clutches Kathy's vial. I watch Garrett's shoulders slump as he kneels beside his brother. I pat his back awkwardly. He doesn't cry, just stares at Damon's face. Finally, he speaks hoarsely. Daphne, I need to take him home. Wait for me here. Once I've handled this, I'll come back to you. Garrett, stop following me, I say quietly. He stiffens, then whispers, all right. Garrett takes Damon's body back to the pack. We never see each other again.